All right, welcome everybody to tonight's survivor story with Donna Henri. Donna Henri is a hardworking, multitasking Wonder Woman who lets nothing stand in her way. Then an accident on January 18th, 2016 changed who she was. At the time, she was a wife, a mom of teenagers, and worked several part-time jobs, as well as being an owner of a body sugaring business at home full-time. Life was great, and she was always smiling. However, following the car accident, she was slow to return to work, and when she did, it was at a much lower capacity than she previously was. But she kept pushing through, never giving up, thinking she would get better. She had several physical injuries, but her nonstop headache and inability to sleep was worrisome to her and those around her. Donna, months later, was diagnosed with a brain injury and is still on her road to recovery. This journey has led her to the BIAWW, where she now works part-time. It has become her passion to help others with brain injuries. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. All right, just going to share my screen here. All right. So this is my story, the survivor story of me, and I'm calling it the new me. I haven't quite, I guess, fully accepted the fact that I probably will never be the me that I was before. So I'm trying to embrace the new me, which, as you know, if you have a brain injury, that's sometimes hard to do. All right. So just wanted to give some positive messages and some encouragement. Just never, ever, ever give up on yourself. You are worth it. Recovering from a traumatic brain injury have many challenges and frustrations. Some days you'll feel many times like giving up. The piece I took up to you upstairs, okay? While you struggle to keep the faith. These are all absolutely normal feelings, and there is not a single person that is going through this journey that hasn't felt that way. So you are not alone when you're feeling that way. Not everyone in your life or new people you meet will understand what you are going through. Some will decide that they can't be around you due to their comfort level, while most will do whatever they can to support you and help you with whatever you need. Focus on the ones that stick with you. Don't worry about those other ones. The best thing you can do is to help educate them along the way on your journey and help them gain that understanding and compassion. Sometimes we have to teach them what we're going through so that they can understand if they just have no clue how we're feeling, what we're dealing with. So it's a good opportunity to educate them. The most repetitive comment that I think I have heard is, I had no idea. The other one would be, you look great. So again, this is a very invisible injury that brain injury is, unless it's very, very severe. But a lot of concussions and minor brain injuries, there's no signs or symptoms that you actually have something wrong. So we often refer to that as the invisible injury. But now they do have an idea of what I'm going through because I took that opportunity to educate them. We all have a story. Some parts of our stories will be similar and some will be very unique, as every single snowflake that is formed and falls. We'll talk to 10 different people that have the same sort of concussion or the same brain injury, and we will all have something different about our experience or about our symptoms that somebody else doesn't have. So it is a very unique injury. So my story and journey with a brain injury was your typical winter day in Ontario, snowing like someone shook that snow globe one minute and then sunny and blue skies the next. It was January 18th, 2016. I left the house early for my osteopath appointment because of that sort of weather change. I wanted to give myself that extra time. I would have rather sat at my appointment outside if I was early and played Bejeweled Blitz on my phone than sort of worry about getting there late. So I just thought I'll give myself extra time and head out early. And then it was pretty much there were two lanes on that sort of side of the road. We were on the highway. And one of those roads, the plows hadn't been out yet. So one of those lanes were a little more traveled than the other. So most of us were in that lane that was traveled a little bit more, just because it was a little bit more stable with the tires. The other lane beside us was pretty much completely snow covered. So there were a few that sort of whizzed by, the ones that felt like they were invincible, but we were mostly in the one lane. And then all of a sudden, and I have no idea if she was directly in front of me or a couple of cars ahead of me, but all of a sudden this car was out of control. And I learned later that she had hit another van and then was sort of spinning out of control. I was sort of, if she went to the left, I went to the right, and I was pumping my brakes the whole time. If she went to the right, I went to the left. I was just trying to do everything I could to avoid her. And then she sort of went off to the left, hit that cement median that goes down the middle of the highway. And next thing I knew, she had bounced off that and she was directly in front of me, straight across the highway. So she was traveling the wrong way on the highway. At that point, I just slammed my brakes on because there was nothing I could do. I probably said a few choice words, not really sure, don't remember that part, but and then all of a sudden, boom, I hit her. She was charged though, because she was going the wrong way. And I was very, very dazed and confused after that whole thing had happened. I do remember that I struck my nose on something, not sure if it was the steering wheel or the airbag. And you know, that's a short girl problem because we have to be so close to that steering wheel. So it's very easy for that airbag to impact a little bit harder than normal. But again, I'm not sure at this point if it was the steering wheel that I hit my nose off, and then the airbag, sort of, maybe it was both of them. I'm not really sure. We don't really know. So this is the first vehicle that she struck here. So not a lot of damage to that vehicle. And we don't know if she was texting or what she was doing, but she hit that vehicle. And then this was what my vehicle looked like after all her stunt driving was done. I actually had a part that, and I don't even know what that was, but a part that sort of came out of the car and was on the road. And it was a little worrisome because I wasn't sure what that was, and if my car was going to blow up or what was going to happen. And then this is the aftermath of her vehicle after she hit multiple things. So basically every side of her vehicle, from hitting the van to hitting the wall to then me hitting her and then swinging around and hitting the other guardrail, her whole vehicle was completely smashed up. So there wasn't much left of that. My first thought was kind of like, whoa, what just happened? It was, I was very sort of dazed and confused. I remember calling my osteopath and just saying, I think I'm going to not be able to make it today. I was in an accident, and he was all freaking out on the other end of the line. But he just basically said, just do what you need to do. Don't worry about your appointment. After a few minutes, there was a rap at my passenger window, and it was the guy that was in the van that she initially hit. And he had a clipboard in his hand, and he basically said, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I think so. I was very dazed and confused and just didn't really have a full understanding of what had happened or what was happening. He asked for my name and I told him, and then he said, "Oh, damn, my pen's not working, so I'll be right back." He never did come back to the vehicle, which I thought was very strange and didn't really realize that until afterwards. And then I finally sort of got myself out of the car. The way the car was hit, it sort of buckled into my door. So my door really only opened about this much. So thank God I had just lost a whole bunch of weight and was a little bit skinnier, that I was able to slide out. There was a man standing behind my car, and there was another vehicle there. And I said, "Oh, did she hit you too?" And he said, "No, I'm a witness." And he said, "I just want to say you did such an amazing job avoiding the collision. It was like watching Mario Andretti avoid a collision on the course." And he said, "But when she bounced off that wall and came in front of you, you didn't have an effing chance." And I just remember looking up at him going, I don't even know this guy. And he just swore. So I'm just going to go back and sit in my vehicle. I remember calling my insurance company. I think I called my mom. And and again, just very confused. I was shaking like crazy. So my adrenaline was up really high. I remember when I called the insurance company, she said, like, are you okay? Because I guess I was very shooken up, and she could tell in my voice. And it was freezing cold out, and she said, do you have the car running? Like, are you warm? And I'm like, no, I don't have the car running, because there's a part of my car on the road and I don't know what it is. And she said, then get into the tow truck, get somewhere where it's warm. So the tow truck driver was leading me to his tow truck, and the officer, the OPP officer, showed up and sort of said, yeah, get in the truck. We're going to get you guys off site and do the reporting there. We want to get this this highway opened up again, and keep everybody else safe, because everybody was sort of stopping to look. So the tow truck driver told me some interesting news about the other driver that caused all of this. And that was that she was driving her mother's vehicle, but did not have insurance, and she had a suspended driver's license. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit, but he said, don't worry, the mother has insurance, so you're fine. Don't worry about anything. So we drove to the Tim Hortons Shell station on Lancaster, which happens to be right across the road from our now office, which is kind of coincidental. And the police did the reporting, and then I got to the tow truck lot, where the tow truck driver had actually had contacted the rental car company and had them bring the rental car to me, which was very convenient for me. And then from there, I drove myself to the hospital. The police officer wanted to call an ambulance for me, and I just said, no, I don't want an ambulance. I didn't want to pay the hefty fine of an ambulance, or not the fine, but the price of an ambulance. And the other thing I thought was, there's more people that are going to need this than I am. It was a bad winter day. There's probably a few elderly that are going to have heart attacks while they're shoveling. And I just didn't want to tie up an ambulance to get me to the hospital when I felt I was okay to drive myself. So at the hospital, I reported to the doctor that I had a very sore left shoulder, a massive headache. I remember laying on the bed in the room, and I put my arm over my eyes, and I said to the nurse, like, please shut the lights out. It is too bright. And so they knew all of this. Sore nose. He could tell that there was an abrasion on my nose. He clearly saw that. I had numbing on the left side of my neck, very light sensitive, and the noise bothered me. And he basically did no imaging, no testing. He just basically, touched my back, manipulated my neck a little bit, and then kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, yeah, you're going to feel like shit tomorrow. Here's some medication. We're going to give you a shot of Toradol now, and here's a prescription. Here's a prescription for massage and physio, and yeah, take a week off work, you'll be fine. So I kind of went home to my family that was quite worried about me. And my son even called in sick to work that night, because he didn't want me to have to drive him to work and then drive him home again, like pick him up afterwards, after what I had been through. So he called into sick to work, not sick, but just told him that he couldn't come in. I took some time off a couple of my jobs. The other ones I returned to sort of light duty, and insurance was an absolute nightmare. Kind of blamed me. They said, well, until we get the police report, we don't really know if you were at fault. And I was like, I wasn't at fault. She was charged, I was not. They actually wanted me to go to the reporting station and get the police report and then drive it to them, because they said it was going to take too long for them to get it by mail. So I was like, okay. So I called or emailed the police officer, because I had to email him anyways for him to forward me the pictures that he took of the scene. And I told him that they wanted me to do that. And he said, oh, no. You are not doing that. You tell them to stick it, because you were just in an accident and you're not driving anywhere that you don't have to. So I called the insurance back and I said, no, the officer said I don't have to do that. So you can wait for it to come in the mail. But basically that whole time she was sort of blaming me and, oh, well, I don't know if that was your fault of the accident or not. So yeah, that was a little bit frustrating. So 6 weeks after the accident, I sort of just went through sort of every day and was feeling like crap, looked like crap. 6 weeks after the accident, a client had seen me probably about a week and a half or so after the accident. And then at the 6 week mark, she came in again and she just said, "Oh, Donna, you look terrible." And I'm like, this headache just won't go away. It's really bad. And, you know, I was wearing a baseball cap, the light was bothering me. And she said, I think you had maybe got a concussion. And I looked at her like she had three heads. And I said, I didn't hit my head, so I can't have a concussion. Just didn't think that, you know, all of this stuff, you didn't need to really hit your head. It was kind of the myth back then that, you know, you had to strike your head to have a concussion. So she kind of left, and I went on the computer and I kind of typed in concussion symptoms, and I was blown away that I had every single one of them but nausea. And nausea is one thing that only comes on when I have like a series, if they do like an assessment or a series of tests on me, that's when I get really nauseous. But other than that, that's my one symptom that I don't have on a regular basis, which I'm very thankful for. So I called my doctor. I couldn't get in to see her until 8 weeks after the accident. And then she sent me for a CT scan and said, yeah, you probably do have a concussion. So let's sort of start with some protocols. And she, I think it was about at 13 weeks when I actually had the CT scan. My heart rate was very high. I would go on a walk or go on an exercise bike, and I would start at about 63 beats per minute, which was my resting. And in less than a minute, it was up to about 160 beats per minute. So they were very concerned about that. So I saw a cardiologist. My heart's fine. Dizzy every time. I'd always joke that if I rolled my eyes, if someone said something really stupid and I rolled my eyes too much, then I would be dizzy. So it was very frustrating to go through all of that. I had the whole ringing in the ears, vision abnormalities. I've had a headache basically for 5 years, 3 months, and 16 days. I have not had a day without a headache since the accident. I do have those ice pick headaches that some of you might be aware of, where it just feels like someone's stabbing you in the head, and it's very debilitating. And if they're bad enough, it just sucks the life out of me and sucks all of my energy out. So I'm still having those. But I'm so used to my daily headache that unless it's bad, I don't even really mention that I have a headache. Short-term memory loss is a little bit scary. Sticky notes are basically my best friend. So I have lots of sticky notes all around. The shoulder is still not healed 100%, but it's at least better than it was. I have range of motion in it now, which is great. Took a lot of therapy to do that, but we got that sorted out. And then numbness in my neck, I still have, that is still ongoing. The treatments that I've had physio for my shoulder and for my headaches, osteopath and massage. I was assessed at VOR 5 months after the accident. They were the ones that officially diagnosed me. My physio had been sort of trying to do some stuff for the concussion. They weren't totally specialized in it, but they were trying to do some stuff to see if they could sort the symptoms out. And then at that 5-month mark, they basically had me on an emergency sort of going to VOR because I got into physio that day, sat at the table or sat on the treatment bed, and she said, "Oh, how are you doing today?" And I just started bawling, and I just said, "I just want to jump out that window. Like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore." So that was really hard. And she basically just immediately said, phone VOR and get her in now. So I got into them. I think it was within a day and a half, I think I got into them. They assessed me with the concussion. And then at the 6-month mark, I went to Dr. Schuring out in Conestoga. And he basically told me to stop what VOR had me doing. And it wasn't that what they had me doing were wrong. The exercises were something that eventually I would have done, but he felt that it was way too soon. He explained it like, if you have a broken arm, the bone needs to heal before you can start rehabilitating the muscles around that break and that bone that that had been broken. So what they were doing was, my concussion was still very fresh and my symptoms were very high, and they were trying to work those muscles around that break. So it wasn't that eventually I wouldn't do those exercises. It was just at the time it was actually frying my brain more. So he had me stop all of that. Insurance went through that, paid for my treatments, cut me off, paid for them, cut me off. It was that roller coaster that I'm sure some of you have been there, done that. But with persistence, they allowed medical coverage again, but not without those many assessments that I had to go to, which are debilitating in themselves. I saw occupational therapists, and then again, they would send an occupational therapist to have me assessed because they didn't believe that my occupational therapist was telling the truth. So then their occupational therapist said, no, she needs help. So then they had my occupational therapist come in again. She put a report in saying what I needed. They denied everything. So it was very frustrating with the insurance. I had psychological evaluations and counseling and all of that stuff with that. Some of that entailed a bit of pain management. I still see a naturopath, a chiropractor. I did vision therapy for, I think it was 17 months. But I've just recently graduated from that. So woohoo, I'm very excited. So I'm just sort of maintaining that vision therapy about once a week at home. And then I'll have a follow-up in July with the vision specialist. So for protecting myself and holding my ground, I retained a lawyer once I got that sort of diagnosis that I had a concussion. I kind of thought, like, I had a few accidents in the past and had that massage, chiropractor, physio, and then I was fine. So I didn't retain a lawyer right from the beginning because I thought, I'm going to be fine. This is all going to go away. When it wasn't going away and I was actually diagnosed with a concussion, that's when I decided to retain a lawyer. We did a lot of pushback with my doctor. My family doctor hasn't really been one that has supported me through this at all. She'll just kind of say, oh, you'll be fine. It's just taking longer. But no, I don't think we need to do those tests. I think you're fine. But my physiotherapists and other specialists that I've been seeing, wrote her letters and said, would you please send her for this test? So that's been a little bit helpful with them pushing on my behalf. And then again, pushing with insurance adjusters as well. And yeah, I had 6 different insurance adjusters, which was really frustrating because you sort of just got used to one and then you got another one and then another one. And then it just kept going. So that was another frustrating part of the whole ordeal as well. Everyone treated me could see that my struggles with my symptoms were real. And again, they started writing letters to my doctor and pushing for extra testing to be done. I went through private investigators following me all over the place, even with our family on vacation to Sauble Beach one year. They followed me and followed us all the way up there and then stayed on the vacation for 4 days. And they caught me pulling a cooler on wheels with my good arm and going for walks with my husband, stopping every few minutes to check my heart rate because it would go really high. And we'd have to sort of stand there and wait for my heart rate to go down. And then we'd start walking again. So really and I didn't know they were there. So they didn't catch me doing anything because if I said I couldn't do it, I wasn't doing it, but they persisted and kept following me. And there were times that I did know the private investigator was there, like at the grocery store and things like that. And I gave him the runaround. So that was a fun part of that. Things I still struggle with doing, gardening, working out, long walks and running, watching movies in our theater room. That's something that I have not been able to do since the day of the accident. Dancing and singing. I do adult dance twice a week, but I am very limited as to the moves that I do. So if they're doing turns and all that kind of thing, I'm not doing that just because it makes me dizzy enough. Even doing the warm up, bending down and standing up again is really hard for me. So, but I used to be an avid, like full out dancer, and that's just not something that I can do now. Cheering at events. It was really hard to cheer at my son's hockey games, my daughter's dance competition. I usually went into those things with earplugs in and dark sunglasses on. So looked like a bit of a a weirdo. Sometimes people would look at me like I was drunk, or, kind of whispering like, oh, what's wrong with her? But that's what I had to do. So I did what was best for me. I didn't really care what anybody else thought or said. Being at church is really hard. I never missed a church service in all my life. And I can count on one hand how many times I've actually been in church, just because it's very hard for me with the music and the lights and everything else going on. So remembering to do things, again, like I said, those sticky notes are my best friends. I cannot live without sticky notes. And sleeping, that's gotten a little bit better, but I'm still struggling with that, and they're still doing things to work on that. We did settle after 5 and a bit years, and it was quite a joke, but it did bring me mental ease. I drove away from the lawyer's office on March 9th with two feelings. One, that, relief, it's over and done with. I don't have to worry about PIs following me anymore. I don't have to worry about medical exams and assessments. And the second feeling was, why do I even have car insurance? It was very frustrating that you pay all this money for car insurance, and then you endure something that's not your fault, and you get looked at like you're the one that's at fault, you're the one that's to blame, and you're faking it. So it's very frustrating to go through insurance claims. As any of you have done that, you will know that. And now finally, after all this has been settled, finally my family doctor has sent me to a neurologist, a neurosurgeon. She's referred me to Dr. Comer. She's finally listening to me. And it's after the fact, after I've settled. And the neurosurgeon that I spoke to, who sent me for a SPECT scan, which I did last Saturday, he said, I wish you hadn't settled, because you would have gotten way more money with all this testing and all the stuff that we're going to do. So, he said, I wish that you would have met me before you settled. But that's okay. It's over and done with. And again, it's that peace of mind and mental ease that I have, that I don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff anymore. But yeah, my doctor was, it's just taking longer for your body to heal. We're fine. But thankfully she's listening now. And hopefully we can get some answers and some more headway on, my journey to health. And hopefully we'll have something that we can concretely use to help my recovery. So positive things that I found that have come out of this journey, now that we've talked about all the negative stuff, I really found out who my true friends and family were that supported me. I got my artistic ability flowing again, card making. I'm actually in charge of the card making now. So it's really helped me to feel good. I feel great when I, create a card design and make them, and someone buys it. It's like, woohoo! It's very exciting for me. I use my experiences through the past 5 years to advocate and support others with brain injuries, so much that I was hired by the Brain Injury Association of Waterloo-Wellington. Another positive thing, I met all of you. I would have never probably met any of you if I hadn't been in this situation. And I often say that to our sort of card group that we get together with. It's like, after all that we've been through, even how bad it was, we would have never met each other. And we are so glad to be in each other's lives. So that's something that I'm very grateful for. I try to stop and smell the roses more, not lately because of my new role with the Brain Injury Association. It's been a little bit overworked, and putting a lot of hours in trying to get everything sort of up and running with the Shopify and all the different new things that we're putting on Shopify. So at this point, it's been a little bit more overwhelming, but for the most part, I'm really trying to just stop and smell the roses. I've learned to love myself again, and have become. I was very compassionate and understanding before. I was just that type of person, but I feel like I've become stronger in those two areas, just because of what I've been through. I've been able to recognize my weaknesses and embrace them. I've learned to meditate and do yoga. So that's something that I would have never done or thought of before. And when I can relax through it, I really enjoy it. I'd become healthier and ate better before my brain surgery, and then insert COVID, and that all went to hell in a handbag. So we're working on getting that weight off again. I learned how to Zoom. I never even heard of Zoom before this whole pandemic. And I've become never used a laptop in my life, and I've become quite a whiz at the laptop. So I'm really proud of myself for being able to learn those new skills. And I've done 4 paint night projects between the Brain Injury Association paint night and the ones that we did with Camp Dawn. I've really enjoyed those. So those are something that I really enjoy doing, and I'd like to do more of those. So now what we all need to remember is, again, never ever give up. No matter how far away that end of that tunnel or the other side of that rainbow is, never give up. It may take one person 2 years to recover. It may take someone 12 years to recover. We never know what that impact of our brain did. They think for me that my brain did a 4-point hit. And so it sort of, sloshed forward, backwards, forward again. And then when it went back the second time, it kind of went back on an angle. So the osteopath, when he was doing all the cranial stuff, he said, you had a 4-point hit with your brain. That brain sloshed around in there 4 different times. So we don't know what those things are impacting the rest of our body. So be patient with it. I know it's frustrating at times and you just want to give up, and trust me. Like I said, there were times I wanted to just jump out that window and end my life, because it was so difficult for me to think that, how can I live like this? This is not a life I wanted to live. This is not what I chose. But trust me, it will get better, and it may be slow, but please hang in there. Ask for help with those things that you're struggling with. It shows strength, not weakness. Don't think that when you ask for help that you're being weak or you're incapable. Just ask for that help so that you can heal. Very, very important for that. And I have to remind myself of that too, because I'm the one that I'll just do it myself. So I have to remind myself that I need to ask for help more often. Know and understand how much energy every single activity that you do through the day takes. We talked in our support chats about those popsicle sticks, or those charts that you have that you measure out how much energy doing the dishes is, how much energy going grocery shopping is, how much energy to be on the computer for a certain amount of time, how much energy to talk on the phone with someone, or to be on Zoom, or to maybe, do a load of laundry. All of those things take energy from us, from our brain, and from us physically. And we need to know and monitor how much energy that takes. And everybody, again, is going to be different. So you can't just take somebody else's chart that maybe laundry, depletes their energy by 25%. It may deplete your energy by 75%. So you have to gauge that yourself. But try to keep mindful of how much energy those things are taking, so that you can, sort of plan out your day and say, okay, I know this takes 50% of my energy. So I can do that, and I can do one other thing that day, and that's it. And then you just leave the rest of that stuff for someone else to do, or for another day. Drink lots of water. Water is has so much benefit with brain injuries, and just for your body overall. All your organs really need that energy. If you're dehydrated, that can cause more headaches. There's a lot of different things dehydration can do that can ramp up your symptoms. So stay hydrated and drink lots of water, and talk to your healthcare professionals about different vitamins or fish oil, that kind of thing. Depending on what medications that you're on at the moment, may alter how much of each that you take. But those, couple things like vitamin D and fish oil are really good for the brain as well. So, but talk to your doctor and try to get that idea of how much you should take. And again, become best friends with sticky notes. Short-term memory is something that's really, really difficult and frustrating through a brain injury and through your recovery. So rely on those sticky notes to help you through each day, and sort of that you don't, because if you forget something, you're going to get super frustrated, and then you're just going to get into that negative spin. So do everything you can to sort of stay on that positive end of everything. Prepare for things ahead of time. So make checklists. prepare your bags or your knapsack ahead of time so that you're not forgetting things like your medication, your identification, your day timer, your hat, sunglasses, earplugs, anything else that you might need, a pen and paper. Have a checklist before you go out the door and make sure that you have everything. And you can have a running checklist of just a sort of general, every time I leave the house, this is what I need. And then you can have another checklist. Now, if I go to my mom's house, or if I go to the grocery store, or if I go to a doctor's appointment, these are the other things I need. So having those checklists will really help you to be less frustrated by getting somewhere and going, I've just forgotten all of this stuff. So checklists are great. And then getting a second opinion. Be firm and persistent with your doctor. If you, just because an MRI or a CT scan comes back and it's not showing anything, oftentimes it doesn't show stuff with concussions. And that's why they have these brain scans that just, it basically scans the brain, the blood flow of the brain, all of those things. But a CT scan and an MRI may not show anything. Meanwhile, you feel like you're dying and you feel like you can't cope. So get a second opinion. Don't let your doctor do what mine did and say, oh, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. No, say, no, I'm not fine. Bring someone with you if you need that extra voice. If you don't feel that strength enough to stand up for yourself, bring somebody with you who will. And always ask for support with any of that stuff. We are the ones that are going through this. Don't let them bully you and make you feel stupid. We know what we're feeling, and we know how hard it is to be able to go through day by day for this. So don't let any of them make you feel awkward or that you don't know what you're talking about. Stand up for yourself. So that's just some really good advice that I can give you with that. Another positive quote: if you're feeling if you have feelings of despair, change that thought process. Again, try to always, if you're getting a negative thought, try to think of something that you've done that you can feel proud of yourself for. And it might be the smallest things. It might be that, oh my gosh, I remember that without my sticky note. That is huge for us. For somebody else, that might be nothing, but for us, that is a huge leap and bound. So feel proud of every little thing that you can accomplish. Maybe you were able to stand for an extra 5 minutes while you were doing something, or you were able to be on the computer an extra 2 minutes. Those are all gains for us. So maybe you were able to meditate for 10 minutes instead of 3 minutes. Any of those things are gains. And remember that you are strong enough to face it all. Even if it doesn't feel like it right now, you are. Please don't ever give up, because this is something that can lead to a lot of depression, because we're misunderstood. We're not looked at as having an injury because it's an invisible injury, and we need to stay strong through all of that. And that's what our support chats are for. They're there twice a week for you to reach out, come on, talk to other people that are like-minded, are going through similar symptoms as you, to get some advice, to get some just validation that, you're not the only one that's going through this. So please make sure that you're reaching out and staying in contact with us. I just want to leave the presentation before we stop the share and get questions going. I just want to leave you with, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Greatest Showman, but this clip is different disabilities than what we're going through, but the message is the same. And I want you to listen very closely to the words of this song and sing along if you'd like, get up and dance if you'd like, whatever you feel like doing right now. But listen very closely to those words. And I want you to hold them in here and in here. Okay, so let's just take a little peek at this. It's a very powerful song, so you might want to turn your volume down a little bit on your own device if it's too loud for you. But here we go. We're going to, hopefully this will work. All right.
Hide away, they say, we don't want your broken parts. I learned to be ashamed of my scars. Run away, they say, no one will be our glory. When the sharpest words wanna cut you down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Another round before you eat my skin. But fire away. Since today, I won't let this shit sink in. We are moving through the barricades, reaching for the sun. We'll be here. Won't let them break it down. I know that there's a place for us. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I'll make no apologies. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. This is me.
All right. So I want you to remember those words. Those are very, very important words. And I want you to remember those because we are who we are and we should be proud of who we are. So
Thank you so much, Donna. That was an amazing song.
It is.